Let's be blunt. Chances are when you think of Buick, you think of Grandma and Grandpa. That's not a totally unfair statement. In fact, Buick isn't exactly the first car company that comes to mind when you think of small, fuel-efficient, and youthful vehicles. But regardless of your thoughts, they've been in the US for 110 years, and that makes them one of the longest-running brands here in the States. And with age comes wisdom, and that brings me to this new model, the all-new 2013 Buick Encore. It's like no other vehicle to ever bear that Tri-Shield insignia on the nose. In fact, looking at all the cars the company has ever produced, only the early 90s Skylark came close to the diminutive dimensions of this new crossover. But times have changed, and Buick is looking to up the ante and draw in a much younger customer base. So does this all-new entry into the compact utility segment have what it takes to bring in the younger guys like myself? Let's find out as we explore the 2013 Buick Encore Premium. Small like a Mini, yet tall like an SUV, the Korean-built Encore is based on the same platform that underpins the subcompact Chevrolet Sonic. But that's about all the two cars have in common, as Buick has made extensive changes to the Encore to make it unique. The car was originally introduced as a 2012 model in other parts of the world under the name Vauxhall or Opel Macaw. Now the nose bears the same waterfall-style chrome grille that accentuates an attractive set of large projector beam headlights, complete with the traditional blue halo surround. My only major complaint from the front, and I feel like I say this every time I get my hands on a Buick, what's with these tacky fake hood vents? If the design team at Buick had a mission of cheapening the look, they certainly succeeded. One of the first giveaways that this vehicle wasn't developed at a design lab on this side of the pond can be seen from the side profile. This is a very tall, narrow, and at the same time short vehicle, traits not typically expected in an American car. It almost makes for a very unique, almost egg-shaped profile that may turn off a few buyers. But looks are just an opinion. Regardless, the Encore is classified as a small crossover with available all-wheel drive and that expected higher seating position. Competitors in this class are few and far between, and so far, the Encore has been a sales success for the brand. The rear end of the Encore has a clean, inoffensive look to it. The upright taillights seem a tad vanilla for my taste, and I prefer to see the company use LEDs for the brake lights, at least if they want to reinforce its standing as a premium brand. One area where the Encore excels can be found when you open up this manual tailgate. It reveals just under 20 cubic feet of space with the seats up. Fold them down, you'll get just under 50 cubic feet of space. That sounds like a lot until you realize your typical compact utility offers around 70 cubic feet, but to be fair, the Encore is about a foot shorter than similar findings in this price range. The Encore's tiny dimensions make for a lower weight, which allows for the use of a smaller engine. Under the hood, you'll find basically the same engine from the Chevrolet Sonic, a 1.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, putting out 138 horses and 148 pound-feet of torque. Now, unlike most modern turbo engines, however, this one has a block made from cast iron, and it utilizes only port injection as opposed to the more precise direct injection. Your only transmission choice is a 6-speed auto with a manual mode, feeding power to your choice of front or all-wheel drive. Fuel economy was a top priority for GM, and the front-wheel drive model achieves 25 miles per gallon in the city and 33 on the highway. Choosing all-wheel drive drops those numbers to 23 in the city and 30 highway. You'll be happy to know that this premium car doesn't require premium gas. Now, first settling into the interior of the new Encore, I'm basically just as pleasantly surprised as I am with the exterior. You're greeted with a very inviting, warm, and premium environment that isn't overdone that most of the GM interiors that I come across is. It's very tastefully done. Now, my particular tester is the Premium. This is the top trim, and even though this is the top line model, it's missing push-button start. Here's the key for the vehicle. It's basically the same key, switchblade key you get with any GM product that doesn't have intelligent access. So stick the key in the ignition. You'll hear the traditional GM chime here. And then the 1.4-liter turbo starts right up, and it makes a pretty familiar noise. It sounds basically just the same as the Sonic and the Cruise, but Buick has tuned it to be a little bit quieter. Now, the rest of this interior I'm very impressed with. Again, the materials are top-notch. The fit and finish is reasonably good. You have soft-touch materials on the dashboard, the same soft touch on the door panels as well. It's a very pleasing grain texture. My particular tester is an all-black interior. I do like the faux dark wood grain trim with the metal look accent splashed around. Buick actually said these are fake metal accents, but they look real to me. They look really nice, honestly. The steering wheel, it's a very familiar steering wheel. It's basically what you'll find in other GM products, but I really like the contrasting white stitching. It feels very nice in your hands, very fat bolstering extension. This is an electric power steering system, so it is very light. Now, All 4 windows are automatic down, but only the driver window is automatic up. Kind of weird how they omitted that. It's the same thing with the driver's seat. It is a 6-way power, but the seat back itself, it's a manual recline. A little bit cheap for me in this price, at this price point. I think they should have just made it an 8-way recline or 8-way power driver's seat. It does give you a memory function, which is weird. Now, the center stack here has a lot of buttons. I imagine that most of the old people that are supposed to buy Buicks will probably get in this and say, wow, that's a lot of buttons. Honestly, if you study it, it's relatively simple. The buttons are pretty small and they're very familiar looking, but GM does label it pretty well. You'll have your audio on this section, dual zone automatic climate on this section. You actually get niceties like a heated steering wheel, heated seats, have your parking sensors. This vehicle actually has parking sensors front and rear, so when you put it in reverse, the mirrors do a reverse gear tilt down. The forward sensors will beep at you if there's something in front. And then one thing it is missing, however, is a trajectory. There's no distance or trajectory markers. Kind of cheap how they just forgot to put that in there. The camera itself is a really nice quality. Now, speaking of that LCD screen, this is Buick's IntelliLink system. When you turn the system on, you have your nice radio sources like XM, Pandora, Stitcher, AM, FM, CD, your auxiliary, USB. I mean, all of the sources are there. The graphics are pretty nice looking. This is not a touch screen, so don't even bother trying to reach for it. It's controlled by this little scrolly controller knob here, which if you go to navigation, that's the one thing that I do really appreciate with this car is I really like the navigation map quality. It's a very beautifully rendered map. I like the colors in it. It's very unexpected. I actually prefer this over Ford's navigation system. Now, the one thing that I don't like, however, is when you're trying to enter an address. Let's say you push destination, you go to address entry. You want to input, let's go ahead and input our city, which is Washington. I'm in Washington, D.C. here. Now, for one thing, to actually pick a button here or pick a letter, you use the little scrolly wheel and it basically just scrolls down and you have to scroll by each letter, which the system will, I guess, blur out letters that don't exist. But one thing that's really weird as well is, let's say I want to pick W for Washington. You would think you push this button right here to actually select it. You don't. You push the little ring, you push the whole ring in, and that's the enter button. Pretty weird way of doing that. I think GM should probably rethink that. It took me a while to figure that out. Now, my tester also has the 7-speaker Bose premium sound system, and it sounds relatively good. I'm very impressed with it. It also comes with a noise cancellation function that will cancel out some of the outsized noises here and there. Now, my tester is also missing the sunroof. That is probably about a $900 option. I would probably add it, but honestly, the headroom in here is excellent, so I don't think the sunroof would probably take up any space. Overall, I'm very pleased with the interior. If there are a couple of grievances I have, it's the fact that only the driver gets an armrest here. The passengers does not get an armrest, although the seat does fold flat completely for those of you who need to put items that are up to 7 feet long. Even though the Encore is quite small on the outside, the back seat of this vehicle is actually quite surprising. I am 5'7". You can see the bench is nice and high up. I am lacking a little bit of thigh support, but the legroom is pretty decent. There's really good foot space here. You can see tons of headroom, and Buick hasn't forgotten about rear seat comfort as well. You get a nice armrest back here with cup holders. You have basically the same soft touch materials from the front seats, leather stitching right here, as well as dual mat pockets for the front seats. What I am noticing that's missing, rear seat vents, but at least the company does give you a nice 115 volt household power outlet down at the bottom there. Now, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I drove a Buick, let alone a modern Buick, and I gotta say, stepping behind the wheel of this new Encore, I'm immediately impressed with it. The dynamics of this car are just completely unlike the Buick brand. It's got a very nimble, kind of spirited handling, acceleration. This car is just basically a huge surprise for me. I just like the way it feels. It offers really great visibility. The steering, while it is very light and numb, typical of a Buick trait, I kind of expected that with this type of a car. This is not really a sporty car. I didn't expect it to be a sporty car. I expected it to be a practical and economical commuter car, and it definitely falls into that boat. Now, even though this car is based on the Chevrolet Sonic, which I have briefly driven, it doesn't feel at all like a Sonic. You do feel the higher ride height. It gives you nice visibility of the road. The car does feel a little bit tippier in the corners just because it's such a short wheelbase, short body, but a very tall design. It doesn't feel scary tippy. It just feels like if you go around a corner too quickly like this, you can feel the front tires skidding, and it doesn't really offer much confidence, but that's okay. I kind of expected that. The 1.4 liters acceleration is also not bad. You know, with only 138 horsepower, I expected this to be a dog, but the mid-range is really where this engine's strong suit is. It pulls really well, especially between 3 to 5,000 RPM. Even though 0 to 60 times for this car are about 10 seconds, it doesn't feel like 10 seconds. The only time where you notice it feels relatively slow is when you are on the highway or if you have a lot of passengers in here weighing down the car. Now, speaking of weight, the Encore weighs about 3,200 pounds, which is actually, I think, a little heavy. This thing should weigh under 3,000 pounds. But regardless, it's a very nice driving vehicle. It offers very nice driver assistance stuff. My particular tester, the Premium, offers forward collision warning and lane departure warning. It works really well. There's a camera mounted behind the rearview mirror, and it basically scans the road view. There's actually a green light icon that comes on when it is active to let you know, hey, there's a car in front of you, be careful. I guess it's kind of just to let you know to pay attention. Now, the systems are passive. They will not intervene. The lane departure warning won't correct you if you're drifting, and the forward collision warning won't stab the brakes if you're going to rear end someone. And that's basically how it works. The little beep comes on. It will mute the music if you have that on really loud, and it'll say forward collision alert in the center stack here. It's a pretty nice system. It will startle your passengers, and for those of you who tend to tailgate, that's definitely not me. You can adjust the system's sensitivity by pushing this button here on the steering wheel that will adjust the distance, and you can turn it off entirely if you're one of the people that hate that. Now, driving this car in its natural environment around the Washington, D.C. area where we're at, it's a very nice driving vehicle. I'm very pleased with it. The infotainment system works well. This is Buick's IntelliLink system. The navigation system also works extremely well. I'm very pleased with the map graphics here. I actually prefer it to a lot of other manufacturers. The voice commands work well. The points of interest work well. The backup camera and parking sensors front and rear have worked really well. It's just a very nice vehicle. I'm genuinely very surprised. I do have a few gripes with it. I would prefer that this car would have push button start. I'm kind of thinking, why doesn't it have that? It doesn't have a power tailgate. I think it needs a power tailgate at this price point. And then maybe HIDs and then LED taillights would be a nice addition as well. Overall, if Buick would make those changes, in addition to upgrading the engine with direct injection and adding about 10 more horsepower, they could lower the 0 to 60 time to about 8 seconds. I think that it's definitely a vehicle that would fall into the class leader status. Now, what is the class for this car? Now, that really depends on the price. The Encore starts at just under $25,000, about $24,900. That's for a base model. My Premium tester is a front-wheel drive model. This sticker's for about $28,900. Add $795 for the navigation option that my tester has. That pushes you right around $30,000. $30,000 is a pretty good chunk of change. You could buy a compact utility vehicle like a Ford Escape, a Honda CR-V for basically that same money. Now, some of you may not want a bigger SUV, and then at the same time, you may not want to drive something that everybody else drives. You see those CR-Vs and Escapes everywhere because the companies sell about 250,000 of those a year. This is definitely something more unique, and it has been a hot seller for Buick. In terms of its direct competition, it's really down to the Nissan Juke and the Mini Countryman. You could also compare it to the BMW X1 and the upcoming Audi Q3. However, those two vehicles are about 5 to 10 inches longer than this car and about $10,000 more expensive. And that makes the Encore very unique. And it's one of the reasons why I particularly like it. It's a very unique car. You can get it with front or all-wheel drive. It's a very comfortable, quiet interior. Typical Buick strengths here. The steering, while light, the car has a really crisp ride, very isolated from the noises of the outside world. And if you're looking to basically escape all those noises, the Buick brand is definitely the one that you need to go by. It offers pretty good value and a strong warranty. So with all that said, I am happily surprised with this new Encore. And I gotta say, if you guys are skeptical about Buick and you still associate the brand with, I guess, old people, I gotta say, you gotta put those negative connotations away. Buick really has been upgrading their image and changing their designs, and I'm confident to say that it's something that the Generation Y buyers and I guess the Generation X buyers that the company is targeting should definitely stand up and take notice. So if you guys are in the market for a small luxury crossover SUV like this, make sure you check out a 2013 Buick Encore. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all later.